Okay, everyone, I think we have most people here, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you all for joining us today. We are going to be talking about the Massachusetts Alternative Energy Portfolio Standards, specifically renewable thermal technologies and fuel cell technologies that are eligible to qualify beginning today. The portal is going to be opening today. So. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, there is a question panel. You'll see you can type questions if you have them as we go. We'll try to answer them as we go, but then also we'll be answering them as we go. It looks like we don't have audio with someone talking, no audio here. Can everyone hear us okay? Oh, okay, it looks like they got it. So, okay, great. So just an agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to do a brief overview of the portal, go through some general application requirements, and then we're actually going to be going into the portal and doing some demos. We have a couple that we've preloaded with information, so we'll be able to just walk through and show you the fields and talk about what we're expecting for those fields. And then we're going to go ahead and do one from the beginning so you could see start to finish how the application will flow. So the application portal, all applications are going to be submitted through the online portal. The link is here. The portal is going to be going live at noon today. So we'll have the webinar probably wrap up maybe a little early, right around noon. And then after that, you'll actually be able to go in, register, make an account, and then begin submitting applications. So the application is hosted by the Clean Energy Center. Like I mentioned, all applicants have to register and make an account. The portal itself and the flow process is pretty similar to SREC 2. Which we'll talk about in a minute. The application is 6 steps, and you have the ability to save and exit after each step. You can have multiple applications open and being edited at the same time. I know that's a functionality that's pretty helpful, especially if you're going to be submitting applications for multiple people, or you want to have an application open, leave, come back. You have that functionality. And then there's also some really helpful functions, such as there's in-portal communication functions, automatic email updates, things that we think are going to make the application process really easy and clear for all applicants. So just getting into some of the general requirements, if anyone was at our stakeholder sessions last week, or if you're attending this week, these are what we talked about during those sessions. Just general information, generation unit location, capacity, existing heating system details, so your annual load, if you have, what's your primary heating fuel and distribution type, and then getting into the generation unit installation and design details, again, your capacity information, equipment information, any technology-specific design information. So, for solar thermal, we have azimuth and tilt requirements. For ground source, there's some requirements about the wells, things like that. We have system cost information, installer information, contact information, and then all of your NEPOOL GIS information as well. And then as far as attachments, you'll see here, I won't go through and read all of them, but for small generation units, there's not that many attachments that are required, pretty much collecting all that information via fields. But the intermediate and larger generation units who will be metering, those have a whole suite of attachments that they'll have to submit. So you'll see here, mostly just have to do with flow diagrams, electrical diagrams, and then information regarding the meters, your metering plan, some system information data sheets, things like that. And again, equipment information, design drawings, site plan, all system performance workbook. All of this stuff will be on our website, and we'll also be posting these slides. So if you want to refer back to this, we'll have that information as well. here is this picture. I know it's a little blurry, but here is the landing page that you'll see when you go to the PTS website. You know, if you're a new user, you would register as a new user, or if you're a returning user, you would log in using your credentials, and that will bring you into the actual portal. And so this is just an example of one of the automatic email updates that I mentioned earlier. So, you know, usually with our other programs, if there was an issue with an application, you would get an email directly from someone on the team. The application actually has, like I mentioned before, an in-portal communication function. So when you go into your queue, as I'll show in a minute, you'll be able to see our comments directly next to your application. But you'll also be receiving this email that references what your application number is in the comments. So really helpful for keeping track of your applications and what's required for each one. Okay, so I think if we don't have any questions on that, we'll get right into the actual portal. So as you can see here, this is going to be your landing page. So you'll log in, and this will be your queue that you see for all of your applications. So your application will have an ID number, so you can see here, 347. Your system name, whatever you choose to name your system, will show up here. And then it also highlights the technology type. You know, so this one is an air source heat pump. We have a wood pellet system, another air source heat pump. Your status shows you what level of completeness your application is. So if you are on step 1, 2, 3, it would lay that out for you. This bar is a good visual to help track how far along your application is. And then over here, DOER application details. This is that in-portal communication that we mentioned. So you'll see down here, this was an application that was submitted, and DOER reviewed it and made a comment that they need to revise the equipment information and then put it back into an editing status. So you'll be able to log in here and see very clearly which of your applications need to be fixed and then resubmitted. So we'll go ahead and start with one of these applications. So we'll just click continue. It brings you to step 6, but I'm going to take us back to step 1 just so that we can walk through all of the steps. So here we are. We have system name. You can choose to name your projects whatever you want. You know, if you're an aggregator, an installer, people like to name them by the customer name. You could name them by your own internal ID number, whatever you would prefer to name it. Here we have your system address. So this is the actual location of the generation unit. One thing to highlight is one of the requirements. The generation units just have to deliver a thermal load to Massachusetts. So we have all of the Northeast states here. Theoretically, it's possible that you could have a generation unit located just over the border, Connecticut, Rhode Island. But as long as they're delivering that thermal load to Massachusetts, they would be eligible. So you have that option to locate a different state over here. We just got a question, is the system name, customer name, is that going to be available to the public? So we will be posting a qualified units list similar to how we do for our other programs. And we do usually include the system name in that as an identifier. So that would be available to the public, yes. Okay, so moving down here, some general system details. We have your electric distribution company, so you'll see all of the general utilities. Your gas distribution company, same thing, all the gas companies in Massachusetts. Your facility type, this is similar to the SREC 2 or the SREC 1 program, commercial, government, residential, and then depending on what you select for this, that leads to your subsector. So if we were to change this to commercial, you'll see down here changes to commercial, and you have some different options as far as what to select. We'll keep it as residential for this project. This is really just informational purposes for DOER. We like to collect this information. So now getting into what type of technology you're submitting an application for. So here you'll see we have all the different suite of technologies: solar thermal, heat pump, woody biomass, biogas, biofuel, compost heat recovery. Fuel cells are also going to be through this application, but they're going to be added in the next couple weeks. We're still developing that application. So once that is live, you'll see in this list will also be the option for fuel cells. So you would select whatever technology you are using. So here we selected heat pumps, and then you would go down to your technology subsector. So you have the option for air source heat pump, ground source heat pump, a gas engine, air source heat pump, or a geothermal system. So we're gonna stick with air source heat pump. And then here's where you're gonna list the capacity of your systems, and that's in kBTU per hour. So see here, you will have listed as 100. When you enter your capacity, when you enter your capacity, let's do 115, the system will tell you what your system classifies as. So we have 3 different size classifications: small, intermediate, and large, and that's based on the size of your system. So you can see here I put in 115. The threshold for small air source heat pumps is 134. So obviously 115 is less than that. So the system registers you as small. So you can just click OK. So that's a good check as far as if you're submitting an application and if you're incorrectly putting in the capacity, that'll help you catch, if you were off by a factor or so. And then additionally, systems, they have the option to size up their classification. So if you were a small system and you wanted to meter, you could bump yourself up to intermediate or large, depending on the type of metering you would like to conduct. So down here, you'll see as a small system, you have the option to remain small, or if you wanted to do partial metering, you could classify yourself as intermediate, or if you wanted to, for some reason, fully meter your thermal output, you would classify yourself as small. We expect most people will stick with the size classification that is based on their capacity, but so you typically won't be editing this field, but it is possible that someone on the cusp might decide they'd like to meter, in which case you would indicate that here. And then down here, this is a question if you're adding on to an existing application. So if you had, say you installed an air source heat pump application, you submitted that, had that qualified, and then you wanted to install a solar thermal system, you could select yes, in which case this would pull up all of the applications in your queue, and you would be able to add on to that. So a lot of the information would be pre-populated based on that previous system that you had qualified. Again, we expect this to mostly be no for people. You're submitting a fresh application. Nothing's been qualified before, but again, just a functionality that helps make the application simpler in the future if you're adding on to a system. And so then we're going to save and continue. So this will save all of the fields on this page. And now it brings you to, you'll see up here, your step 2. So now we're going to get into some of the existing heating system details. So you'll see here, we're asking the square footage of the conditioned space. That is what feeds into that AIC calculation. That will actually determine the number of certificates you're generating. The annual heat load of the facility in million BTUs per year. What type of facility construction is it? So is it a new construction, a new building, or is it a retrofit? What is the primary heating fuel being displaced? So, if you weren't using an air source heat pump, would you be using gas, oil, propane, biomass, or if you don't have any backup? And then what's the heating distribution type of again, this is just of the existing facility. So without the renewable thermal generation unit, what is the building using currently? So forced hot air. And then this would be, do you have a supplementary heating fuel? So say you had a house that was using gas, but maybe they also have a pellet stove. You would select yes, and then you would classify here wood. If the home or the building is only using gas, you would just select no for this. and then those fields would actually disappear. So they're only there, as you can see here, when you select yes. So we'll go back to, we'll leave it as yes. And then down here, just the percent that's being served by that supplemental load. So, you know, if 25% of their heating is coming from that pellet stove, you would just indicate here that percentage. Oh, looks like we got another question. Okay. So, someone asked, why is electric not an option for heating fuel type? We can add that in. We'll add that in as an option. In the meantime, you do have the ability to select other. So if you come here, it looks like others not in here. We'll add those. That's a pretty simple add-in. We'll make that option available. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So again, we completed this step. So we're going to save and continue. So now this is where you're getting into the actual generation unit information. So like I mentioned, just to reiterate the previous step 2, that's all for the existing system when the generation unit wasn't there. Now we're getting into the actual air source heat pump details. So what's the renewable thermal distribution type? Again, you know, you have all of your typical heating distribution systems. What is the capacity as the percent of the facility's annual heating load? So, you know, what percent is the renewable thermal unit providing? So here we have, you know, for air source heat pumps, we have some thresholds, 90% or 100%. So here we're just going to list 95%. Because we're not doing all of the heating load, we, you know, list, do you have a supplemental fuel? Yes. So we'll say our backup is gas. And then what's that supplemental heating distribution type, forced air? This would be probably the same information that you completed on the previous step, but just making sure there weren't any changes after the renewable thermal unit was installed. So now here we have the air source heat pump installer. So we have a list of a bunch of installers that we know of here. But if for some reason someone that installed your system wasn't there, there's an other option, which will give you the ability to add in someone that maybe wasn't on the list. And then once you do this, DOER has the ability to add them onto the dropdown. So if you notice your company maybe isn't listed, after someone submits an application with their company information, you'll get added to that dropdown for the future use. And then down here, we're just asking, is the renewable thermal energy being used on site? So like I mentioned earlier, maybe you have the ability to maybe not be using the thermal energy on site. For instance, if someone was located, just over a state border or even just in a different facility, so just capturing that information. So if you were to say no, it asks, the number of off-site locations. So this is maybe getting at, if you have like a district heating system, where you have a generation unit located in one place and you're feeding thermal energy to multiple different locations. You can indicate how many locations, and then we just ask for the information for each one of those. But most of the time, this will be yes. And then just getting into some rebate information. So did you receive a rebate from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center? What was the amount of the rebate, and what was the Massachusetts rebate ID number? And then as far as system cost, what was your total system cost? So this includes equipment information, install information, everything associated with installing the system. So really trying to get at a total cost value here. And then is your system operational? You can select yes or no. People have the ability to apply to the program and get what we call qualified. So before they're operational, as far as this application for a small air source heat pump, most will be just submitting after they are operational. So you would select yes for that. And then you would select your date and service. So when did the system first start generating useful thermal energy? So again, save and continue. Step 4, we're going to get into some of the equipment information. So here you have what's the number of heat pump models. So this is the different types of heat pump models. So if you're using maybe multiple units, but it's the same model, you would just select one, and then down here you would select, Mitsubishi, P-Series, and then there's 2 of that model. If you were to select 2 models, and then maybe you were to come down here and do a different manufacturer and a different model and a different quantity, you could do that, but really we're up here, this first field is just how many different types of models are there. And then you can list the quantity of each model further down. And then this is just asking, is the system integrated into your heating distribution system? So for this, we're going to select yes, that's a program requirement. Okay. And then moving on, so now we're into the contact information. Okay, just answering, let's go back a step. So we have some questions about, does the model type drop down allow for other systems? Yes. So down, it's always at the very bottom. So you can select other, and then you would manually type in what the manufacturer is, other, that's actually a bad example. We would want you to type in what it is. So you would say Mitsubishi, for example, and then whatever your model was. And then this operates the same as the installer. So once someone submits this to us once, it'll get added into the dropdown. So you might notice some of the dropdowns don't have as many options right now, but as we begin getting applications, those lists will, expand to capture the more common or used, installers, models, things like that. So we'll just go back to Mitsubishi, P-Series 2. And then we had another question. For air source and ground source heat pumps, is 100% of the heating requirement only for small systems? Yes, that is correct. So only, small ground source systems have to meet 100% of the building's heating load. Air source systems can go down to 90%, but then they have additional eligibility criteria. So you can see all of that on DOER's website in our guidelines and in our regulations. Okay, so continue. So here we have contact information. So the system owner, you would put this in. You have the ability to use my contact information. So if you had someone that was maybe doing leases, and so they were the owner of the account, and they are also the owner of the generation unit, or someone was submitting on their own behalf, you could click this and it would auto-populate that field. For the most part, we expect this. You probably wouldn't use your own contact information if you're an aggregator, a broker, an installer. This would be the system owner's name. But for the GIS account holder, if you're the aggregator, you could, use my contact information, and that would pre-populate these fields for you. And then AIC owner, you can use, again, my contact information, or if this is going to be the same as the system owner, you can use the system owner information. And again, that would pre-populate for you. And then down here, we have the NEPOOL GIS information. So this is the same that we collect across all of our RPS, APS programs. What is the generation unit or aggregation name? What is the asset ID? And what is the plant unit name? And this is what's going to be linking your account in GIS to your DOER application. So these are pretty critical fields. And then our last step is for attachments. So you'll see required the AIC services agreement. This is for anyone that's submitting an application on behalf of someone else. So you would choose file. I already uploaded an example here, so you can see PDF, the name of the upload, and when was it uploaded. And then there's these optional uploads. If you're going for that additional multiplier, which the information on that is again in our guidelines and regulations, you could upload those here. And then if you just had any additional optional uploads that you wanted to attach, you have some space down here to do that. Here is the applicant attestation. Again, this is something that we require across all of our applications. The SRS2 application has something very similar to this. APS and the APS for the technologies that were included previously. All same thing, just talking about making sure that you, one, have the right to submit this application. You've been granted that authority from the system owner if that's not you. And two, that everything you're submitting is true and accurate and complete. So you would check I attest, and then we're going to submit for approval. So make sure that you're always clicking the submit button, because until then, the application wouldn't be reviewable by DOER. So submit for approval, and congratulations, you've successfully submitted an application. So now you can view a summary of your application. And so here it'll show you, the name, your application ID, your system name, and then it gives you a summary of every field that you completed. So if you wanted to keep this for record-keeping purposes, or just wanted to review what you inputted, you can see all of that here. You can return to the application dashboard, and now you'll see here this is submitted, and you're awaiting DOER Mass DEC review. So that's how you know that you fully submitted your application. Okay, so we haven't gotten any questions, but looks like if you have any questions about this application, if you want to submit them, and then also we can see later. It looks like someone asked, is there a summary page available before submission, i.e. while the application is in process? So I believe it is if you click on this. So when you're in your queue, if you click on your application ID number, and same thing for after it's submitted too, that opens a new tab with your summary. So you can see here all of the fields that you've completed, the same thing. So if you hadn't completed these fields, these would all be blank. There wouldn't be any information there. Someone asked a general question, as an installer, how do we know who the aggregators are, and how do we choose an aggregator? We have a list on our website that is aggregators that we know are looking to work in this market, specifically APS renewable thermal. So that can be used as a reference. DOER doesn't certify or approve any aggregator. That list is, if someone comes to us and says, I'd like to offer aggregation services, we add them. So there's no really review and approval. So obviously we're expecting people to do their due diligence when choosing an aggregator to work with, but we do provide that list on our website, which when we post these slides, we'll probably send out an email and include that link for people. So we do have some helpful information as far as that goes. Someone asked, what is the difference between submitting for qualification versus submitting for approval? So this is the same thing as in our other portfolio standard programs. So if you had, say, a really large system that you were getting financed and your financiers wanted to see some documentation from DOER that you're going to be eligible for the program, even though you're not operational, you can come to us and submit an application with what you expect your system to look like. So, this is our anticipated size. So let's see. So I'll actually can show you. So this is what the question is referring to right here. Submit for qualification, submit for approval. So if you're operational, you would just submit for approval. But if you were not operational and you were really just looking to, I guess, pre-qualify for the program, it's not a guarantee that you will be qualified after you're installed. Obviously, we would still review your application with all of your final information. And if, you weren't meeting one of our criteria, you wouldn't be eligible. But you can submit for basically a pre-qualification that you submitted to us some general information. We expect that based on that, you would qualify. And again, that's usually, we typically see that just for large systems that are looking for some documentation for financing. So this question is, that's the question.
So that's the aggregators list.
Yeah. Oh, so the aggregators list, yes, that'll be on DOER's website. Thank you. So our next question was, does this new application portal change anything about the application process for other APS eligible technologies, specifically CHP? No. So CHP is still going through the old application portal. This application portal is just for the new eligible technologies that we've added. So specifically the renewable thermal and the fuel cell applications. Okay. Someone asked just generally, will this webinar be available after, and when will the fuel cells be eligible to apply? Yes, we are going to be posting this webinar. As far as the fuel cell application, we expect that to be available in the next 2 weeks or so. We're just finishing up building that and then testing, and then that'll go live as well. Okay. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in. So we're going to go back to our portal, our queue. And again, we're just going to walk through another application. So click continue here. That brings you to the application. It brings you to the step you saved at. So that was saved at step 6, but we're going to go back to step 1. So again, system name, whatever you want to name this. This is public record, so if you prefer to not use customers' names, that's fine. Obviously, it should be something unique so that it's easily identifiable, but we also do have application ID numbers, so those will be helpful too when identifying applications. So again, system address, where is the system located, your system details, distribution company, gas company, the facility type. We're going to walk through a woody biomass system, so different from the air source we just walked through. So you can see the sub-technologies, wood pellets, wood chips, cordwood, or pyrolysis oil. So as far as what is your capacity, so we're going to put in 115, and you'll see, this should pop up. So you'll see the system qualifies you as intermediate, so that's a good check that you put in the right capacity size. Say you were to accidentally add a 0 to this, it would tell you this system qualifies your system as large. You know, you would know that this should be intermediate, so that's a good check to go back and say, oh, okay, I accidentally added a digit there. Yes, intermediate is correct. So then here, your size classification. So again, just to reiterate, you're always eligible to only size up. So as an intermediate, you have the option to remain intermediate, again, what we expect most people to do, or if for some reason you did want to increase the level of metering you were doing, you could select large. And then we're going to, again, do no, this isn't an add-on, so we'll save and continue. This is the same across all applications, so same thing, what's the condition space, what's the heat load, construction type, and what's the fuel being displaced. Someone just asked if the system was previously installed but no application for the APS was ever made, would the system be eligible? So that's yes. For renewable thermal systems, as long as they were installed after January 1st, 2015 and on, they would be eligible. For fuel cells, if you were installed after January 1st, 2016, you would be eligible. So systems that have been installed and operational for the past 2 years or so for renewable thermal and the past year for fuel cells can submit applications. So now we're going to get into step 3, which is where you're looking at the renewable thermal details. So again, distribution type, what's the system's capacity as a percentage of your annual heating load? 100%. So this wood pellet system is doing all of the building's heating. Do you have a supplementary load? No. Here we have what's your installer, so just selecting who your installer is. Again, if it was someone not on this list, you could select other, and then that pops the fields up for you to manually enter their information so that they can be added to the drop-down. Is the thermal energy being used on site? Yes. Did you receive a mass DC rebate? If you didn't, you can just select no. Okay, and then here you're going to put in your total system cost. Again, everything that was related to the system. So, if you had engineering costs, equipment costs, installation costs, that's total system cost. Is your system operational? Yes, and then selecting your date in service. So you'll see you can go, maybe you were installed in 2015, you can go all the way back, select whatever your date in service was. We just got a question back to the eligibility date. If a system, or the question was, why are older qualifying systems disqualified? So the statute that added renewable thermal technologies specifically specifies January 1st, 2015 as the eligibility date. And the same thing for fuel cells and the waste to energy systems. It specifies in the statute that that's the beginning day that systems can qualify. And the idea there is really these programs are targeting new systems. So how do we increase the number of systems that are being installed, promoting new systems? Okay, and so now again, getting into the equipment information. So the number of models, if you just have one, you would select one, you put in the manufacturer, the model number, and the quantity. For biomass systems, we have some questions that revolve around thermal storage. Are you installing thermal storage? Yes or no? And then again, you would select other, put in your manufacturer name, the model name, and then what's your thermal storage capacity. We don't have any thermal storage options right now just because there are so many possible options. So our idea here is that having people from the beginning just putting in other, and then we'll be adding these to a drop-down list. And that way we're not starting off with a list of 10,000 boilers that could all qualify, but really just having the list be what we're seeing people installing. So in the beginning, it might be a little tedious to enter in those fields, but as more systems are installed, the list will be more tailored and easier to use.
Yes, that was for thermal storage. There is set requirements for the boilers.
So again, contact information, just very straightforward, system owner, GIS account holder, AIC owner, and then your GIS information for thermal storage, for biomass systems. There's a possibility that you could be creating electricity and useful thermal energy if you were a CHP system, but instead of classifying as CHP, you wanted to classify as an APS renewable thermal system and a RPS class 1 system. That's an option. So this field is just really aiming to capture that information. Do you plan to generate electricity under class 1? So if you said yes, we would just ask for your RPS ID number, just so as a department we're aware that that's what's going on. But if you're just a biomass system that's creating useful thermal energy, you would select no for that one because you're not generating electricity. And then again, same thing, here's just your required documents, and then your optional uploads if you have anything else you want to submit to the department. And then again, just your applicant attestation. Someone asked, back to the contact information, if the system owner and or AIC information was available to the public. That's not something that we would post to be made public, but it's possible if we were to get an information request that we would have to make that available, which is the same across all of our other existing programs. And if we were to get a request, it would follow those same procedures. So then again, just selecting that you attest to the statement above is true and correct. And then we're going to, again, this system, we listed it as operational, so we're going to submit for approval. And then congratulations, so this application was submitted. So, again, you can view a summary of your application, and just, if you wanted to print this for your records or save it, you can see all your documents, everything like that. You can see when it was submitted. And then you can always go back to your queue and see right here, submitted, And then you can, again, pull that summary by clicking on your application ID number. Okay. So another question we just got is, how do fuel suppliers qualify under the program? So they would need to be qualifying outside of this portal. So they would be submitting to the department to be on I think the biomass suppliers list is what this question is targeting. And that's a separate paper application that you would be submitting to the department. And that's going to be made available on our website in the next upcoming week or so. And you would be submitting that directly to us. This portal is just really for generation units. Okay, so now we're just going to go through and do an application start to finish. We've really talked about all the fields, so this will just kind of be the process of how you would start a new application. And then after that, if we have any more questions, we can go through that. So if you want to start a new application, you would obviously click this button. And then this brings you to the same application. You can see all of your fields need to be completed. If for some reason, so we'll just, okay, so we're going to do APS webinar test there. So one test. Boston, Massachusetts, 0. Yes, so that's a good point, is that it does save historical information. So there is the option to auto-populate depending if you're filling out the same contact information over and over again, then you will be able to speed things up a little by using that feature. So we'll select our electric distribution company, our gas distribution company, facility type. Again, this is, when you select commercial, then you get this commercial subsector. So we'll say we're doing like a college or university. And then here you'll see when you click your technology, that's when the sub-technology pops up. So if you were to click woody biomass, you have your woody biomass options. If you were to do heat pumps, you have your heat pump options. Something that is probably less common but is possible is if you wanted to do a combined application. So say you were installing a solar hot water evacuated tube system and you were pairing it with a heat pump system, you would be able to do that in one application without having to duplicate a lot of your information. But for this purpose, we'll keep it simple and just do one technology. So again, here, sub-technologies. Solar thermal is a little different as far as capacity. Instead of the capacity in 1,000 BTUs per hour, it's all based on the collector square footage. And this is gross area, so gross square footage. And so we're going to do a small system, so that's anything less than 660. So we'll put in 135 square feet. That's about 3 collectors. So you'll see up here that classifies you as small. We know that that's correct, so that's a good check. We're not going to meter, so we're going to keep ourselves as small. And no, we're not adding on to an existing application. So you can save and continue. If you were to start an application and it turns out that that application isn't moving forward, you do have the option to cancel and delete. So I know in some of our other portals, applicants didn't have the option to delete applications and remove them completely from their queue. This portal does have that ability, so it's also a little bit of a risk. Make sure you don't get to the end and hit cancel and delete instead of submit, or save and continue, but that is a feature down here. So square footage of the conditioned space, however big the building is, and then what's your annual heat load. When you're putting in values, just make sure, I don't think it will accept any punctuation, so just do values. You don't have to worry about commas or anything like that. I'm actually going to leave this field out so we can see what happens if you don't put in a required field. So we'll say we're doing a retrofit. They're on, say they're on oil. For solar hot water, these aren't like as typical, but we'll just say other for now. And then no, we don't have a supplemental heat. So you'll see that this is a required field and we're going to leave it empty. So when we go to save and continue, something's not quite right. Up here it tells you exactly what field you're missing, and it also highlights it in red down here. So you can see that this is a required field. So we'll go ahead, put that value in, and now it should let us save and continue, no problem. Okay. So it looks like we're getting some questions about the heating load field for solar hot water. Is that just the space heating load, or if it's the load for the domestic hot water? It would depend on, I guess, the function of your system. So if you're doing space heating, I would include the space heating load. And if you're doing hot water heating, it would probably be the hot water load. But we'll clarify that we'll clarify the fields with the drop down in the unit, so that's clear. Okay, so we'll do, we might need to clarify this as far as the distribution type for hot water. And then this is the same, just the facility load. So we'll say it's doing 100%. Do you have a supplemental fuel? No. Who is your installer? So again, we've preloaded some installers based on the Mass Clean Energy Center's programs, but you do have the option to do other if your installer isn't listed. And then you would, again, just have to fill out all that information. We'll just select someone so that we don't have to do that. Is the thermal energy being used on site? We'll say yes. Did you receive a Mass CEC rebate? So if you say yes, again, those fields are going to pop up versus if you said no, they would not. So we'll say yes, say we got $5,000 rebate. You would put in whatever the rebate ID is. And then again, your total system cost, so we'll say $6. And is your system operational? Yes. And then when's your date in service?
They don't have a date in service, does he qualify?
Okay. Yeah, so a good, if you don't have a date in service, that would mean that you're looking for qualification. You have to have a date in service if you're looking for final approval. So again, save and continue. Your information. So, say you're using all the same type collector, you would say 1. What's the model? Again, you can do other for any of these, and it'll give you a manual write-in field. The quantity, we'll say 3. Your tilt, 30 degrees. Your azimuth, 180 degrees. If you have any, what's your percent shading? So we'll say 0%, so you have no shading. If you were, 15% shaded, you would put in that value, so it's the shading value. The solar thermal, they have to be rated to a specification. So here it says, what specification are you rated to, either OG 100 or OG 300, depending if it's just for the collector or if it's for the whole system. So we'll do for the collector. Here it asks for who is your rating service that you're referencing to. So we'll say the SRCC. You have to put in your certification number. So this is all, information that you can get on their website. Pretty easy, but for reference. And then what's your actual rating? So based on that certification. And this would be if you were using OG 100. This would be if you were using OG 300 for the system. And then here it's getting at what is your heat load type. So are you doing hot water, space heating, a combination of the both, or if you're doing any sort of process and or pool heating. So we'll stick with just domestic hot water. So this is asking a question back for the previous tab. If you were to leave the date of service blank, would you be able to save and continue? So let's save this tab. So let's go back here. So it is required. So for this,
operational hit no though.
So if you were to hit, hold on here. What's going on here? If you were to select no, you're not operational, that field goes away. So the date and service field is required, but if you're not operational, then it wouldn't be required because it's not there. So yeah. And your date and service always has to be in the past. So that was a good selection. And just a note too, if you complete an entire screen, it will not save until you do save and continue. So if we were to fill out this entire screen and then wanted to jump back a step to double check our date of service, if we hadn't selected save and continue and just selected step 3, when you came back to step 4, this would be empty and blank. So if you need to save and continue for any field that you want to save. So here you can see, so we'll use my contact information. So click this and you can see it pre-populated all of these fields based on my account information. And then again, you could use my contact information or you could use the system owner information. So if this was different, so let's just change this, you can see test name. And then you were to use the system owner information, it populates based on what is inputted for the system. Or you could use my contact information and it's based on what's the account information. So just make sure these buttons are helpful, but just make sure that if you're preloading that you're verifying that information is correct. So we'll say use the system owner information. So here you would just put in what's your aggregation name. We'll do a test aggregation. Your me pool ID has to be the classic NON with either 5 or 6 digits. So we'll just do 4. Say we accidentally left off a digit, and then you were to save and continue. It'll flag that for you up here as you didn't give a valid me pool ID. So you have to have 5 or 6 digits. So that will save and continue. And then here again, just your required documents. So we'll do a test document, your optional uploads, and then if you have an applicant, your applicant attestation. So I attest everything is correct. And then if you did not want to submit for approval, you can do upload and save. So now that will save everything that you've uploaded on this step, but it won't submit. So say you wanted to, upload a couple documents, but you still needed a few more that you were working on, you could attach those, upload and save, exit out of this application, finish up those documents, come back in, upload the last few, and then you'd have to reattest. So this attestation doesn't save. You have to, because if you're uploading new information, we want to make sure that you're attesting to that new information, and for approval. And then again, same thing, you can go back to your dashboard, and now you'll see right here, here's our application. It's, submitted. You can view it either from clicking view or from clicking your ID number, either way. Okay, and so now we'll just to show some of the other portal functionalities. So I'm going to go into our DOER queue, and I'm going to review this application. So I would go in by clicking here. I can review the application, look at all the fields that you submitted, and then say I found an issue. I'll type in need to revise the date and service. And then I'll put that back to step 6. So I'll update that. Now we'll go back to our queue, and you can see that the application that we just did went from being submitted like these to back to step 6, and you've received the comment from DOER that the reason why it was put back to step 6 is that you need to revise your date and service. So you could continue, go back to the date and service step, step 4. Oh, where is it? Oh, step 5. All the way back, step 3. And so, you know, fix this. Maybe it wasn't the 15th, it was the 11th. So save and continue, and then you would come back to your step 6. Again, re-click your attestation, and then again, submit for approval. So now it's submitted again, and then DOER would be able to review that based on the revised date and service. Okay. So we haven't gotten any more questions. Oh, here come a few. So, oh no, that was just. So I think that was everything that I had wanted to cover. If you have any more questions and you want to submit them now, we can go through and answer a few more. If there's any functionality that you want us to walk through one more time, you can submit that via the questions. Okay, so let's see. So, how can I most easily access the list of attachments required for the air source heat pump application? So we are going to have a list of all the required documents on our web page, and that is going to be coming out in the next couple of days. But you can also look at the guidelines for these systems. All of the information that's required will be in those, but we'll have examples and a clearer list on our website in the next few days.
We'll also provide a link on the Mass CE site.
Yep, and there'll also be a link to the documents through the CEC site. And then someone asked, what is the next step after approval by DOER? So that's a good question. So DOER will review these applications. For a small system, we would review the application. We would calculate the number of certificates based on the fields. So we would go into your application, we would review all of this, and then here, let's see, we'll go into DOER view. That'll be helpful for you all to see. So DOER will review your application, will run the calculation for the number of certificates, and so we'll say, you know, this has been approved. And then we'll list the AICs that you should be getting. So, you know, say we calculate it's 150 certificates. We'll issue you your APS ID number and whatever your APS effective date is. And then we would update that. So we would update that as approved. And then that would go to the Clean Energy Center because they're the independent verifier for these systems. So the independent, they would just look at, you know, the same thing, just verifying the fields look correct. They would double check that AIC application, verifying that, yes, this is correct. And then they upload that information to the need pool GIS for the minting. So,
We'll add a confirmation.
And they'll add, you'll see in your portal that they're, when Mass CEC has reported your system to the GIS, you'll see that reflected here. So it'll say, you know, certificates reported. For if you're an intermediate or a larger system, it would be very similar. So DOER would go in and review and approve your application, but then your independent verifier, they would be the ones that would start reporting your production to NEPOOL GIS. It would be a different entity than the Mass CEC. The Clean Energy Center is only the independent verifier for small systems and intermediate biomass systems below that 134,000 BTUs per hour capacity. So just the smaller side of the intermediate biomass. And then everything else is contracting with, or is working with their own independent verifiers separately.
What happens after they're minted?
Yep, so then after your certificates are minted, you would be working hopefully with an aggregator, which is something we strongly suggest to broker and sell your certificates. So this is something we really want to stress, especially for these small systems. You know, they're getting all of their incentive in one lump sum. So it's really, really critical for them that they have someone that can broker the sale of their certificates at a good market price, and get them sold, because if for some reason, they were working with someone that maybe wasn't familiar with the market and, they sold their certificates for, an amount way less than what the market was trading at, or if, there was an issue and their certificates, were never sold, then they've basically just lost out on their entire incentive. So we really just want to stress how important aggregators are going to be for the whole program, but specifically for these small systems. And so we're going to be posting, again, people are asking about the aggregator list. That's going to be on our website. We'll have that on. We have a statement of qualification webpage for renewable thermal systems that talks all about, general eligibility criteria. We're going to have technology-specific pages, and then there's information about aggregators, independent verifiers. All of that is on our website. Someone asked, is there going to be a calculator tool to help us estimate the number of certificates for a system? Yes, that we are working on, and that's going to be out soon as well. We'll be posting that to our website, where we'll basically just, you can input fewer fields than what's on the application, really just what's needed to calculate the number of certificates, and then it'll tell you based on that what your number of certificates would be. And then there is a function in there that turns that into a monetary incentive. There's an ability, we have kind of a slider, so you can set the AIC value anywhere from like $15 to $25. But that's just, informational purposes. Obviously, you would have to be in the market selling those AICs to figure out what the exact price is. And that's just for the small projects that are being calculated on a formula. For intermediate and large systems, you'd really have to look at your system pro forma. Someone asked, are intermediate biomass heating systems treated similarly? I'm not sure what that is referring to, similarly to what, but intermediate biomass systems, they're broken out into two categories. So you have intermediate biomass systems that are below 134,000, and those are treated, similarly to the smaller systems where they are applying through the portal, and Mass DEC is acting as their independent verifier, but they're not getting their certificates pre-minted. They're getting them on a quarterly basis. But the rest of the process works pretty much the same. For the intermediate biomass over 134, those are operating like the rest of the intermediate systems. So you're applying through this portal, but then you're working with a different independent verifier and uploading your production to the need pool through your independent verifier. We have a list of independent verifiers on our website. You will have to submit an independent verifier form for each system that you're submitting an application for. And that's just because, an independent verifier might be independent from one project, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're independent from another project. And so it's really on a project by project basis. But we do have a list on our website that lists all the independent verifiers that are currently working in either an RPS or an APS program, and what are the technologies that they're working with. So you can use that to kind of see what, different independent verifiers, what space they're working in, but then you would need to, contact them and make sure that you're meeting all of the independent criteria that we've laid out, and then complete a form and submit it with each application. And it's possible that that form could be very similar for, if you're submitting a bunch of, large biomass systems. It's possible that if you're using the same independent verifier, that form could be similar, but you would have to, just go through and maybe tailor it a little bit to each project. And then how are verifiers found for large biomass systems? Again, you would have to reach out and work on your own to find someone to work with you. You'd have to do that outside of this portal. What is the typical turnaround time for DOER application review? This might vary. We've seen this a lot with the SREC 2 program, where when we're really caught up, we like to be turning around applications in a couple days or a week or two. But there have been times where we've had 5,000 applications in our queue, and it's obviously taken us a little longer than a few days. So it just depends on what volume of applications we have, but I think for this program, we're, striving to be within a week or two, as quickly as possible, always. Right. And then, and it also too depends on the nature of the application. So for small systems, you might submit and get approved in the same day. But if you're a large system and you're submitting a lot of really technical documents, metering plans, site drawings, things like that, that would obviously take longer to review, because there's just more there and there's more due diligence that needs to be done. So it's a little bit of both. And then at what point in the process should the independent verifier form be submitted? That's submitted as an attachment to this application. So you would see, for those intermediate and large systems that need to contract with an independent verifier, you would see that as one of the required documents is the independent verifier request form.
Probably for approval versus qualification.
Right, and that would be if you're seeking your final approval. If you're just submitting for qualification, we wouldn't require that, and that's just because maybe, usually when people are submitting for qualification, they're pretty early in the stages of their project, so it's possible you might not have thought about an independent verifier yet, but if you're submitting for approval, we would require that. Doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in, so I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope this was helpful. Hope we designed a portal that is going to be easy to use and really make this program as simple as possible. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. And like I mentioned before, the portal is going to be going live at noon today. So you can go to, we'll go back to our presentation. So if you go to the Mass DC PCS website, this is the screen you'll see. So at noon today, this will go live, and you'll be able to go and register new user, make your account, and then start submitting applications. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions. So I guess we'll end there a little early. But again, I just want to say thank you, everyone, and we look forward to launching this and seeing where it goes.